Welcome to Saturday Morning Roundtable. First Saturday of the month, we discuss our projects, what we've done, what we plan on doing, what we could use help with. As I said before we started recording, I've done nothing on my projects because I am currently trying to find community, and I would way rather dismantle capitalism than have to make a friend. But here we are. So that's my update. You guys?
Well, good. Then you did the update first. I appreciate you leaping in. And I can go next, Adrian, unless you're really dying to. I haven't done much either. I have been playing, I guess, since the last time we met. I think I was doing this last time, but I'm working on a way to visualize the flow of kind of evidence when you're trying to make a rational decision based on reasons and evidence. So somehow visualizing how each piece of information contributes to the overall conclusion of the system in a very way that you can look at it and have an intuitive feel of what's going on without having to understand the underlying math. So I've been playing with that, got some ideas, but it's so complex that although we do it intuitively, when you graph it out, I think I'm going to have to graph out the most complex version and then try and simplify it without losing too much fidelity. So that's where I am now on that. And then I've participated in a podcast with a rhetoric professor called In the Bin. And we did that on epistemic security, which may or may not mean anything. It's kind of like national security, but it's, how is our democracy affected by misinformation and how to kind of mitigate that problem. And so there's a general discussion on that, and we're going to probably show up on that. He's doing a weekly podcast, and the Canonical Debate Lab or me or someone will probably be on there once or twice a month, along with his other topics. I might post a link somewhere if anyone's interested in watching that as well. That's it for me.
Sure. And that was the same person that was in the early attempts at podcasts that we did, right?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, that's Steve Yano.
Okay, yeah.
A professor up in New York.
Cool. All right, I guess I can go next because that's the last person. So my project has gone fraudy. Project to help fight misinformation, unrelated to what Bentley was just talking about, but I guess not entirely unrelated because we're all sort of trying to solve the same problem. I have been trying to, start development on the platform itself so I can actually start to build some of this. What seems like the last step in selecting the actual developer seems to be going slowly. I'm just trying to make sure that they truly understand the project. And I think my development advisor has been busy the last few weeks and not able to do a lot of the stuff that we wanted to be able to move forward. So I think I might just pivot a bit and just set up almost a pre-contract with the dev house to because I feel bad with spending hours and hours of their time for something that they might not potentially even get. So to almost set up a one-off contract to actually pay for some of their time to figure out if they're the ones I want to move forward with it, if they understand the project, see if maybe they can even do some early, diagramming or just, an explanation of how the architecture will work to show that they understand it. So probably do that if I don't hear back from my advisor in the next few days.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for some organizations to do a discovery phase. So yeah, just I think it'd be very nice, especially if it's been dragging on, to say, hey, let's just do something short for this X money. Let's, make sure you're compensated. And I think that's a good sign of goodwill. Okay. And gives you a little bit of a feel. Like we said, kind of, it's best to do small contracts and small fields so that it's more like dating than getting married on the first day.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's trying to do that. And then also just been sort of working on my own design notes and stuff, but not much I can do until I actually have the platform. So.
Cool.
Yeah, not sure there was anything in for the three of us that needs more discussion.
All right. Well, thanks for the meeting, everybody. Yeah. No.
Chat for a few minutes, see if that other person shows up, and we'll put them in the hot seat. That's all.
Right.
Listen, we know each other's projects.
I do have some other kind of details I could pontificate on, and then y'all can stop me or encourage me, whichever you feel.
Sure.
One of the things that I am talking about with Steve Yano, the professor in New York, is different debate formats. So we currently have, we're on a Discord, his Discord, and I'm like throwing out. I was watching the Great British Baking Show or the Great British Bake Off, depending on where you watch it. I was thinking it was interesting that they get one recipe where they get to practice at home a whole bunch, right? And then they also have a recipe where they don't know. It's more like Iron Chef, where they don't know what they're going to do. It's kind of they know the theme, and then they have to do a recipe they've never done before, which shows two different types of skill sets. And also having, a series of meetings. Usually a debate's kind of a one-off thing, and there's no time to think or to, in a lot of the formats, to think or do some more research. So having something to where it's like a competition over multiple weeks, and they have a whole week to do research and stuff like that, is an interesting kind of concept. And then, maybe something where they don't get to do so much research. So yeah, we've been kind of brainstorming on ideas like that.
I definitely like the idea of a new debate format. I find a lot of existing debate formats aren't necessarily centered on finding truth and more just who's better at arguing. Like if this were true, blah, 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 and then, okay, well, ignoring if that's true or not, is that argument useful? But for the purposes of reality, we care if it's true, because if the stat or the study or whatever that you're citing is wrong, or you're not using it correctly, then while your argument might be appealing, it's kind of useless if it's based on stuff that's wrong.
Yeah, I was watching, we were talking, and I thought it might be fun also on his podcast to watch different debates and discuss their debate format, like IQ Squared. I can't remember what their format's officially called. Lincoln Douglas? No, I can't remember. But yeah, it's very much, you have certain times like that. And sometimes they are actually allowed to ask questions of the other side, which is another interesting mechanic that'd be interesting to talk about.
Is that like a spot reserved for that? Like you do your presentation and then there's like time reserved for a Q&A back and forth?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think I've seen them do that. If not them, then other people. So that's one of the mechanics we want to discuss. How interesting is that? And I was watching Modern Day Debate, which is a YouTube channel, has 83,000 subscribers at the time of this recording. And they're doing a conference. I think it's this Saturday in a town nearby. Oh. I've been thinking about going, but I hate their format. So I'm not sure if it's worth going because I couldn't even sit through one whole debate.
What is their format?
Probably not that.
So I think so. I just watched a few of their most watched videos, and it seems like it's mostly no format. So which is
like, so it's just
not
people arguing.
It's not horrible, but as a philosophy, letting people have a good back and forth and very low structure is one way to do it. But it does tend to encourage sensationalism and different kind of negative kind of tactics. Now, I don't know if the type of debates I'm talking about doing are going to be any better, but it hurts my brain to sit there and listen to one person kind of barrage the conversation, and then they never come back to some of the points that were brought up.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see something like that, both from like the actual technical debate, like somebody doing, points or trying to figure out who won that way, but then also look at it from like a purely, is what they're saying correct standpoint. Like, if they cite a study, if they do this, dig into that and find out like, okay, do people think that was correct to base that on? Was that an assumption that an expert in that field would agree with?
Yeah, that's interesting to do kind of a deep scoring, and maybe even have it to where the scores are not announced till a week later. So you have a whole week for whatever judges you might have to kind of determine score, and maybe have a group of fact checkers go in
And then
and fact
I'd be
check them.
very interested to see how how aligned those are. How often the winner of the debate is the winner of like the technically said things that were true part. Or wonder how often they'd be completely unrelated.
I'm trying to find if anywhere Modern Day Debate has a website where they, or somewhere where they talk about their format, because they do say we're working on growing a fully neutral platform that only hosts fairly moderated debates and that allow for raw, unedited takes on the big questions of our time. So a very low structured format, I think, is what they want to do.
Right.
And it would be interesting. I don't know the guy, although the guy who's kind of heading this up, I might try and meet him if he's in town. It'd be interesting to get him to come on the podcast and discuss, different debate formats and hear why he likes their format, and if he sees any issues. That'd be fun to do.
Yeah,
the
no,
entire
that's
podcast on everyone else's debates, and
Yeah.
whether or not. The other thing that was coming up, not an actual suggestion, but it would be entertaining to watch, which is like a rap battle, but with, instead of like me making fun of you, we're like discussing the point. And it's more about the pros than about the facts, just the complete opposite of what you're looking for. But what was because you said, right, having them have the debate and having them critiqued by a judge. I actually don't know really how debates work, but then the weekly, like having the stuff that they're using as evidence critiqued by a different judge that's just on is that a fact or not, right? So like that, I don't know what the scoring system is, but if this was true, good point, but is it true?
Right.
And so it's like two different scores, one of which is right now and one of which is later, but then when you're broadcasting it, almost like a MTV pop-up, like this has been found to be this, or like just this is a green, a yellow, and red, right? This is a highly suspect one, not Facebook fact checkers, right? Of like, we don't like it, so we're gonna go in and, which is what ends up happening with debates anyway. Again, the better debater, the better arguer. It's like flip the side, get them to argue the opposite side. Also would be
because I think a good / real debate platform seems like it would almost be like an asynchronous, like people creating videos and short presentations and people citing other people's works. So like, because a lot of the issue with debates I find is that they're testing your ability like to think on your feet and react and say things, but it doesn't really matter as far as if somebody has a good point and you're like, oh, I hadn't heard that before, I have to go and rethink. Like I have to go and do research to see if that's true and then look at what new information that opens up. And all of a sudden you're, knee deep in books for 2 weeks and you come back out, you're like, I have a new thought. Like you can't do that in a debate, but that's actually what's needed to solve problems. And then that might do the same thing to the other person where, oh, I hadn't thought about that. All of a sudden you've got this like weird every 2 weeks, the people responding to each other, but like actually trying to figure things out and not just throwing rocks and trying to, flex their silver tongue.
Yeah. All those are things I think it'd be fun to explore. Like we were thinking about trying to do a debate competition where it's debate lab, or the debaters may not even know the formats that they're going to be, and then just try out different things, and people know that every time they're going to watch it, it's going to be a different format. And then, if we settle on something, we can kind of announce that. But I think that would be interesting to watch.
It would, because then you'd also get feedback from the audience on like they might like the person but not the format, or they might like the format but not the people, right? They might like the topic but neither any of those combinations, to get that feedback over 10 or 12 episodes. Just yes, great. We don't care. Like the best out of all of those three, right?
And then the question is, would anyone be willing to participate in that sort of thing? If you don't know what the debate format is, I mean, maybe
like, because you wouldn't know until you
I
got
think
there.
it would be easier if it were like if you had something like the debate lab or something where you could have 100 of these happen over the course of a week. And then it's really just hey, we're all going to be talking about this topic for this week. There's going to be 100 of them. You don't know which format you're going to get. It takes a bit, I think, of the heat off of you to be like, I don't want to be the only one doing this. And like, you completely crash and burn. Okay, but so did 400 other people.
Yeah, if we can find that many participants.
Yeah, I think you need like a community built around debating.
And then
And
it's
then
more
the-
about those hundreds of conversations, not necessarily about a broadcast one debate.
Right. Yeah.
I think
And that's
like
kind of what I'd want to see as the output of it. Like if you have 10 different formats you're testing, what do they like? Do they lean a certain way? Do they tend to, is one more scientific? Does one just give it to the loudest person in the room? Like, or does it actually seem to be like, oh, it's just based on the points or however you might like that?
we wanted to not like the audience or whoever's watching what their viewpoint is beforehand, what their viewpoint is after. It doesn't change. We know it doesn't, but like maybe it could skew that data. That's
Or our people know that that's how it's measured, so they're saying they're one thing and then saying something else because they want to have a certain
Right.
side win. I think that would be some data I'd like to collect. Yeah, but I don't know how accurate it could be. Yeah, it looks like
Sorry.
I was just gonna say it looks like they don't Modern Day Debate doesn't have anything except for the YouTube channel, so they don't have any like a really in-depth about page.
Right.
What were you gonna say, Jubilee?
What I'm writing it down 1 second. I was thinking a more useful question for an audience instead of like, what was your mind and was it changed? Of like, and this is not going to be great for data, but like, what did you learn or what did you come away with you didn't know before? That is more of like a, and it could be on either side, right? It could be on the side they already knew, or it could be on the, or either both, right? What did you learn from this side and what did you learn from this side that you didn't know before?
Yeah, that would be interesting. And then and then ask them their opinion kind of about the debate format, whatever it was. Yeah, it might also be fun to do it to follow kind of a lot of the sports methodology. So you could have a clips show, where it's just like, oh, and this person said this, and that was a sick burn, or, talk about tactics. This person was mostly doing theatrics, which seemed to sway the audience, but the fact checkers destroyed him a week later, and talk about different tactics and how the format either encouraged the tactic or discouraged the tactic, and was that helpful or not? And what are the things that are people learning from doing the debate? So one of the hopes of a lot of people that teach debate is that people learn critical thinking, and they'll also learn presentation skills and how to be well spoken. But are they also learning how to manipulate people? Are there some tactics that could be both good and bad? Are there some tactics that are always bad? Are there some tactics that are hard to do, hard to have negative outcomes? And then should we be teaching or emphasizing the ones to where it's harder to have negative consequences for that tactic? Yeah.
I know this isn't because there's already enough going on in data, but it'd be very interesting to know how the audience responds to the demographics of the debaters, right? Their age, their accent, their race, their gender expression, all of that. Because my guess is those different tactics will be seen very differently by who is giving them and what side they're on.
Yeah, that's valid, because a lot of tactics from females are perceived differently, considered socially acceptable for males, people that are expressing male or coming off as male. Yeah, you'd have to have a fair amount of volume, but it'd be interesting to collect that data.
And whether or not if you see them, it's different than if you just hear them, right? Because that clearly is different.
It'd be interesting to actually use AI to switch the perceived gender of a voice, or visually, right?
Filter that now does that.
Yeah, have the exact same person, one presenting male, one presenting female, show it to half the people and see if you get a different response. And it's like, well, we know nothing else has changed except for this. That would be a fascinating. Yeah, so now we're studying the audience, not just the debaters or the format.
Take the exact same wording with the exact same, so like have two really great debaters say the thing and then have it, because it can't just be the accent, also be like AVE, for instance, right? Is like a different dialect, so it'd have to be, but yeah, that would be fascinating actually to have.
I think with the AI stuff these days, you could literally take the same performance and put it on two different.
Yeah,
and people wouldn't know.
speak in your voice and have it come out in different voice on TikTok right now. Like they even did it on their cat. Their cat's like meow.
Yeah. Do y'all think y'all would participate in a debate like that? Probably not.
I mean,
No pressure.
I need to see the format. I mean, not.
I'm down with failing, so yeah, sure. If you're okay with me talking like I do, and yeah, sure.
Be interested, like in sort of figuring out how things work, but the actually live doing the debates, not really.
Yeah. Good to know.
I used to love debating, and now it's like so little interest because it never changes, and because it's like I want more information. I don't care about like black and white binary options. And this person, we all know who I'm obsessed with, talk about constantly, and his need for us to be in agreement causes all the disagreements, and he cannot see that. I'm like, I'm good with us having different opinions, right? You're pro-life, I'm pro-choice, or whatever it is. I'm okay with, and it's like, no, we must. And I'm like, it's like we're entering non-consensual debates constantly. It's like, I'm not debating you. I don't need to give you facts. And it's like, to some degree, seen. This is an extreme example with this human, but like that in the media, right? Like trolls kind of do that too. And I know I do that sometimes. It's like, oh, you didn't want to enter this debate. Well, I want to give you my half of it, right? And it's like, but to look at the media and be able to almost dissect other people's debates that aren't actual debates, like they had another opponent, but they do not.
Yeah, I spent most of the debate today in my own head debating someone who said some stuff last weekend. And I realized before this call that I've been wasting. I mean, I was doing other things, but my heart rate was racing and I was getting frustrated with a person that wasn't even here and I hadn't seen for a week. Yeah, it could be interesting. Another kind of debate tactic mechanic for the debate format, I was thinking is actually kind of discussing the, they call it a motion where you give that kind of one-sided, kind of Boolean yes no question that you're debating. But the one of the debates I was listening to on Modern Day Debate is that both debaters kind of pushed back at the way it was phrased. In the email, they were said it was like Joe Rogan and the coronavirus reporting that he did. And then the kind of guy that was hosting the debate said, is Joe Rogan, a net positive or net negative sort of statement? And they're both like, well, this was about coronavirus specifically, so let's go to that. But then they were also kind of agreeing on some ways. So they had a little bit of the negotiation. They did have the negotiation of what they were talking about in the debate, but I think it was a bit hard because then they weren't able to research beforehand. And then it's more like, well, it's based on your memory and stuff like that. As opposed to, once again, separating things out and slowing things down. So you have a meeting where you have a general topic and you negotiate the what the motion is, and then you have some time to go back and kind of do research and prepare yourself, and then you exchange information, then you go back and kind of look at, having that space in between, I think would be very interesting. Yeah, so I think that's mostly what I've been thinking about. Even though I'm supposed to be writing code to get my system up. So, Adriel, you don't have a quote for your stuff yet, right?
I got an early quote, but as like the first sort of pass that we went through it and asked a couple of questions, it sounded like maybe they overestimated some of the items. So they were going to come back with a requote, but even that quote, it wasn't that much over the previous ones.
So they had to raise the cost because it's a little bit more complicated than they thought, or was it a reduction?
It should be a reduction.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, because I got some. I got a fair number of quotes on Upwork, and a lot of them were way more. I'm like, I know enough about it to know like this isn't that complex of a project. If it includes all the stuff that I'll be building on the platform, sure, but that's why I'm building a platform, so I can do that part.
Cool.
So yeah, that'll be nice if we can get that going over the next week or two. Actually, start to have an app being built, and yeah, start doing the stuff I've been talking about for years.
So we haven't gotten any comments. Nope.
I don't think we've got a single viewer. It just hasn't happened today. Actually, Steve or Dan is there, but not this week, not this month.
I don't know. I'm not seeing any of the Game B people showing up.
No, we usually stick on for half an hour unless anyone shows up, and we stay on longer. So we don't need to keep talking if we've run out of Game B type conversations.
Are either of y'all spending a lot of time in the Game B community right now?
No, I mean adjacent to, right? Like people who I've met in there, but no, Game B, I'm not on Facebook and not on Mighty Networks.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been super into it. It's more been sort of an adjacent, like I'll occasionally ping it about my projects, and then there's this, but outside of that, not really. How about you?
No, I haven't spent much time. I'm still listening to Jim Rutt's podcast.
Does he still mention Game B like?
Yeah, he's had a couple times. He still mentions it like every third episode or something. So yeah, it's interesting. Someone mentioned the soul-sucking culture of ID verification for every activity. Yeah, a lot of times I don't know what people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, when I think ID verification, are we talking in technology like computer security? Because the opposite, like the alternative to not having that seems worse, as long as the ID verification like isn't super obtrusive. And
Yeah.
I mean, if we're concerned about who's running it, that's fair enough. But
yeah, I'm really tired of typing in two-factor authentication, but
yeah,
I have a lot more than the average person, I think, because I have to do it for work. And so Sam is saying he can't. He doesn't.
I just looked at the comments. Was it just comment? Was it on the comments on the event?
No, I just got an email.
Oh, all right.
Let's see. Guess I shouldn't talk rude about someone about to invite on a.
I don't think it's rude to say he said me.
Well, I was about to make a comment. Where can I easily get the link? I have to find the event.
Yeah, no, this is the issue with you being both Adriel and I can easily copy the event link, but do you want me to put it in the chat or something? I can send it to you in like Messenger.
I got it. I just had to find where all my windows are.
if it doesn't work, I just put it in the private chat.
Every third time, Control C does not copy anything. Oh my gosh. You know what? The Game B site is actually eliminating the ability to copy information. So I can't.
Okay. Weird.
Like you highlight some text and then it unhighlights before you can copy it. I hate when they do that. It's like you're breaking the internet here, people.
Sometimes, as long as it is still selected before you let go, in times in the past, I've like clicked and hold selected, and then without letting go, done a Control C, and it's worked.
Yeah, I just had to do that.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, why did they spend developer time to make my life more difficult?
That is the question. So much stuff.
That's not a standard thing.
It's a great feature.
Who would do that? Okay, I replied to the email. I don't know how long it'll take for him to see that. So we could blather on for a minute.
I saw your comment that had this StreamYard link from last month, and then I put under there like with the date for November's this month.
Yeah, so it's very wise. I had to go in and delete it because it's weird that the comments persist for all the events.
Yes.
Like it still had up the one from last month?
Yeah.
Oh, that's...
And all the comments are that way. So if you comment on a recurring meeting in Mighty Networks, it's on the repeating meetings, not on a specific meeting. And that seems like a strange...
If it had the option, that would be useful, right? Sometimes I'm sure, but like it seems like the default should be the other way. That usually you want to question about one event, like, is it happening? Is it where is it? Not
who's the guest? Who's this? What's
like I can't think of imagine a podcast or anything where you're like, we're gonna have one comment section for the entire thing. It just doesn't work. Like, why Mighty Networks? Why? They're just not using their own site, probably.
One of the other debate formats that'd be interesting to kind of review is Braver Angels. You familiar with that? It's American Republicans and Democrats having joint discussions. Sometimes they call them debates, but I think it's mostly more of a discussion, which would be a lesser format, but the social norms. Hey, there's Sam.
Hello.
Hey guys, it's actually our anniversary, like sometime around this time. So we ended up kind of going out to dinner. So I thought we might be home by in time, but
that takes priority.
Happy anniversary!
Yeah,
come back in December.
It's not like an official anniversary, but it's. Thank you. But I just want to be a fly on the wall, and we're at the family that was babysitting, some friends of the family, so they watched the baby and we had some dinner, and but keep going, don't let me interrupt.
Well, we were actually probably about to shut down. You could watch the stream later on. It should be up on the YouTube and the Facebook. Unless you have any topics that you want to bring up and we could talk about.
I always have my usual rants, but I don't know what you... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say what this format usually is. Okay, never mind. It says on the event, doesn't it? That like we just share what our projects are and where we've been and what we are doing. And so most people have projects that come, but sometimes it is just an open conversation about Game B, creating a better world in general, and usually technology focused. But...
Right. I have a minute. I can just tell you what my project is very briefly if you like, or I can just duck out and let you guys continue.
We would love to hear what your project is.
Yeah, should I give you the quick summary?
Yeah.
So Bentley and I have met. We had a great discussion. Actually, Bentley kind of directed me to a bunch of other groups that are kind of doing related stuff, and that was really interesting. And I've met a few people through that. So I'm building this thing called 4b.io. I changed it from org.io recently, and it's basically a tool to help groups collect, develop, and prioritize the ideas of their members in order to make better decisions. So it uses like proposals and alternate proposals, and then within the proposals there are statements like why or why not or where or when, and all of these things are votable, and we use really interesting voting technology that kind of combines score voting, rank choice, and approval voting. So it's a way of kind of like gathering the thoughts, and also the priorities, or the degree of agreement that people have with statements and proposals and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Happy to answer any questions if you have, or
and where is that project at?
Whatever you like.
Like, what's the
4B FO? What's it? It's looking for beta testers at the moment. It's pretty good. It's a lot more than an MVP at this point. It's pretty I'm still squashing some bugs and stuff, but they're mostly squashed, and it's, I don't know, I think it's it's ready for testing. I have a few testers. There's Mama. Yeah, but you're welcome to play with it.
Put it up on the screen there for a second.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
where groups make better decisions. We got Sam's done several different videos, explainer videos.
Yeah.
Yep. So 4b.io, forby.io. We'll put a well, either I or Sam could put a link in the comments of this meeting so people can check it out.
Sounds good.
I don't know much about your project, but it's definitely needed because every project that gets together is like, if you're either tiny and therefore not going to have as big of an impact, or you're big and it's already too chaotic to do anything with. So OFA is going through a little bit of that. Discord helps a little, but not the way that's needed.
Right. Well, it's right. I mean, it's designed to be like the long-term goal of it is for it to be used in like government. It's like to become the government. I mean, sort of shed its skin and like be the seed for something that becomes the new liquid democracy system that that the world uses, or some variation of it. But it's like an attempt to develop the technology that it seems to me would be needed for the next level of coordination. It's like, I just started sort of writing about this. Like the first jump in coordination was language, right? And then the second jump was writing. And like all of our government systems, they're all dependent on computers at this point, but they weren't designed for computers. They were designed for writing. And so for us to jump to the next level of coordination, it needs to be at this point with this many people. The only way we can do it is with computers. So this is my attempt to just figure out what that would look like, and to iterate on the technology. And it has to be, sort of human. Like it has to work for people, in small groups as well as large. It has to be sort of mirror the natural negotiating and decision-making processes that we use naturally. So, but to be able to be scalable to large groups, so with very, well managed like search, sort, filter, and stuff like that. So that's the sort of the design constraint of it.
And Sam, I meant to ask you, what tool do you use to get these videos? Are you hiring that out, or?
Oh yeah, it's just Fiverr. This one costs like $300 or so, $311 or something. Okay. Yeah, I would love to get a tool to do this. This is so cool, but yeah, as it stands now, I'm just. Yeah.
They have a few. I think this is better than you would get on any of the tools. Just because having an actual person on Fiverr, they probably used one of those tools, but someone who's more experienced with them can get something in far less of a time. So it's probably worth spending the money on it. And just to mention, Sam and I had talked, and Sam's open to, using different formulas of voting and different ways of kind of coming to group consensus. So he was open to having a place where Reasonpedia might be a good experimental tool for there, just like an Adriel's system. Reasonpedia might be a piece in one of these in the future once I think it's to a useful point.
Yeah, I'm thinking that like I part of the long term. I'm not the long. Part of the DNA of this, I think, is that I want it to be like a little module that that pops into other people's projects, or that allows other people's projects to pop into it. Like I'm thinking that this will be, because I think it's a kind of it's a good nugget of usefulness that could really sort of be useful in a lot of really wide variety of scenarios. I think we had talked, I can't remember if it was your idea, Bentley, about a Slack plugin, Discord plugin, stuff like that. I'm willing to just like allow people to drop the basic core functionality into whatever they're doing. So, and vice versa, if we can find ways to put whatever you're working on in as a module into this thing, as long as it makes sense for the users, I'm open to it.
Sam, can I ask what your revenue generating model is to keep this going, to keep the bills paid?
Yeah, so at the moment, it's just bootstrapping. It's just me. But the long term, so the goal is that it'll be free to use for one community. So you could open one community or join one community, and then once you open or join 2 or more, then you pay something like $10 a month.
$10 a night?
And then $10 a month.
That makes more sense. Yeah, that might have been a debate thing though. So
$10 a night. Yeah, it's like like a cheap hotel.
I was like, sure.
Sure, it makes sense. But then there might be an option where large groups could pay like a very discounted rate per user, like for every user that doesn't have an account and so this is their first account, then it would be nothing. But then if for every user that already has one community that they're part of, has an account and has one community, and so this would be an additional one, you could have the group could pay something to have that not be the one that bumps them over into the paid account, something like that. So
as a project holder, it's so hard to find people to come and be on your project, and then even when they do, the ones that really are committed and really want to do stuff still aren't going to necessarily do it. So all of the funding models for these, not this exact type, but these types of things that projects need, charge the project per person. And it's like, right, but we're a not-for-profit and the people aren't full-time salaried employees. They're not dedicated to this. We have like thousands of tiny ones, not a dozen ones, right? And it is an individual. There's no way I would pay to be part of people's projects, especially when I'm just there as a
right. And so the way this, so this could work in that scenario where, like, if one of the groups that you're involved in wanted to use 4B, then they could put all of their group members, all of their participants in, and they'd all be free until any of them wanted to, use this for some other project as well, and then the organization could sponsor them at a much lower rate, or they could just pay the $10 and join as many as they wanted, something like that.
So what is my benefit, like as a user, if I'm part of 10 different communities and I'm voting on all of these different things, is my dashboard make that simpler for me? Or am I still like a Mighty Networks? I have to go but I'm having to pay to be part of Mighty Networks, which would not work.
So you have a dashboard that just helps you, have a list of communities. You click on the community that you want to, see their proposals and their content, and you just jump to the next one. You have a group, you have a unified notifications page, and that's it. So you just pay once and you'd be part of all those groups, and it's pretty easy to jump back and forth, but they are, siloed to some degree.
All right. Do you know around how much it would cost for a community of, let's say, I don't know, 10,000? We know I'm obsessed with 10,000. So 10,000 people deciding how much that would be.
It'd be free. It'd be free to everybody unless any of them wanted to also be part of other groups.
Right. And I'm saying as the project holder of 10,000 people, if I wanted to sponsor those 10,000 people, how much would it cost?
I see. So consider that maybe half of them would not already be on the platform. So let's say 5,000 out of them, say like in some wonderful future where there's 5,000 of your users are already using it. Then let's say if it's like 10 cents a user, maybe at that level. So it might be $500, something like that, to have all of them on it.
Right.
Just spitballing. I don't, I'm open to negotiation.
Seems like also as a business model, you actually want if I'm bringing your company 10,000 people, right? But like, you know what I mean? If I'm bringing 9,000 new customers, I should pay less, no more. If I'm bringing 100, it would be like, or I could find them in yours and then pay way less, but I'm not bringing you any new customers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like you're bringing people onto this. My long-term goal is to sort of saturate the world with the concepts of liquid democracy, of, collective intelligence, of like this sort of next level coordination stuff that, I'm seeing as like, it's either do or die for us at this point. Like extinction is really close here, or are huge depopulations if we don't figure out how to depopulation, unless we figure out how to coordinate better, because we're failing to coordinate on things like, how do we handle AI, how do we handle genetic manipulation, how do we handle the problems of climate change and just pollution and in general, and plastics and everything. Like, we're just not coordinating. So if we can figure out a way to coordinate better, we can solve these problems. And it shouldn't be that hard. It's just there's no way to coordinate. So like if people become comfortable with the concept of this type of process where they can vote on everything, which is really impossible, but they can also delegate, huge, like with liquid democracy, you could tag all the proposals that are tagged with the environment. You could delegate all of those proposals to your favorite person, who thinks about these things and is involved on the platform. And so, and then if you're delegating to them, then you can see how they're voting on everything. If you don't like it, you just change instantly. And so that's the concept of liquid democracy, and the thing that I'm trying to build here as a next level, system that could coordinate at the scale and in the time frames that we're dealing with, because governments are so fucking slow and so ill prepared. Like they don't have the power to concentrate experience and skill onto topics. You vote for a politician and they have nothing. They know nothing except for politics and their party's line. So we can't be delegating to politicians. They can't be our representatives. We have to be able to delegate to people who actually know a fucking thing or two about something, about the topic that we're concerned. Sorry, I'm swearing so much, but and so that's, to me, the only way that we can concentrate the expertise and to do it in the kind of time frame that we're dealing with. Like once you're dealing with something like climate change or AI or something that could like could become extremely dangerous extremely fast, we need to be able to coordinate more quickly. And so this is a system where people could very quickly assemble a team by delegating to people with expertise who could very quickly make decisions and make laws, to handle emerging problems that we're facing.
So Sam, if you have time, I got a couple kind of like project questions, because this is a group of people building projects, and you've done a lot of great work here. Yeah. So like this video, which is kind of a summary of your is this also something where you hired someone from Fiverr, like you recorded yourself reading your
I did this myself on Premiere Pro.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
And if I remember, you're not a software engineer, so you haven't written the code. You hired someone?
Yeah. And
how was that experience? I've forgotten now. I know we talked about it, but
yeah. So I was before 2 years before COVID, I started this project called the Peacemaker Academy. I'm someone who's like constantly trying to orient myself to what can do the most good, like what's most needed in the world. And so this was building it, and I realized that if I was going to open the school, I would need some software. So I went through a process of hiring people and, lost a lot of money, frankly. I just didn't know what I was doing, tech stack switches and, all of that nonsense. And, having lost maybe like $50,000, $60,000. And then I opened the school, and like months before COVID hit, and I had to, for a few months I was like bringing all the mats and everything to the park because I was still allowed to teach in the park. And then that shut down. And then like, I was just sitting on my ass and like trying to think about what's the universe trying to tell me here, and I was listening to a lot of like Daniel Schwachtenberger and a bunch of other, Vervaeke and other people. And I just, was realizing like, wow, we're really having problems coordinating. And like, so I started looking at all the systems, trying to understand all the possible systems. And I stumbled upon liquid democracy. I understood that this is really kind of where it's at, and looked at what's available. And I was like, oh, I think I can do this. Like, I think I can do this. And, and so I agency, but then the employee that I was actually using was being like mistreated by this agency. And like my friend in India, who I hired to do some initial designs on this project, kind of found him and like got us in touch because we weren't allowed to communicate. And I sort of, liberated him, like, you liberate, food from the grocery store or whatever. But, I liberated him from this company, and I paid him or like starting wage was like 3 or 4 times budget because I'm not a rich man, at this point. And so, so how was it? It was a lot of like years and maybe, tens of thousands of dollars of like making bad mistakes. I think I'm at a point now where I kind of understand the process better. I understand the tech stacks that are available and how to work with people overseas and et cetera. So I feel pretty good about it. I mean, I'm a autodidact. I like to learn stuff. So, I learned how to use Figma, and I've learned some coding and autodidact. And so I know enough to kind of fuddle my way through things, I guess you could say. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that was great. I don't know if you've seen our previous videos. Adriel's kind of in a similar space. He's got a project. He's built some prototypes using no code, and he's right in the process of hiring development team, so finding a development team. So we've been following his journey, and if you're available in a month to kind of, if you want to come on and give us an update, that'd be great.
Yeah. Also, Ariel, like Adriel, sorry, if you want to pick my brain, like if you want me to just give you the download of what I've learned, I'd happy to just, I don't know what stage you are, how much you've, maybe you might be well past me at this point, but if there's anything that I can offer, I'm happy to help. I also want to hear about everybody's project too. I feel like I'm just coming in and blah, blah, blah. So.
We're about at the end of our time. It might be best if you're available next month, coming in, and we'll give our little preview, and then you can ask questions about our different I mean, mine, but Adriel and Jubilee and what they're up to, and we can have a little get to know you, and then having you and Adriel kind of chat back and forth about what it's like being a semi-technical or non-technical person trying to build technology. I think it would be helpful to anyone in our community that may happen on maybe someone watching this video.
It does seem to be a fairly common role to like want to do a tech project, but you're not a developer. Like there's a lot of us in this space.
Yeah. And like in the meantime, if we ever do have a meeting, we could like keep notes and kind of like discuss it in the call as well, like kind of like regurgitate the notes, just so whatever I don't know what your listening base is, I have no idea, but maybe something of that might be of value. If either of you want to connect at any time, just reach out. It's fine.
In theory, this is for anyone trying to do a project, and most people are trying to do technical projects, so it'd fit really well. In reality, it's just Jubilee, Adriel, and I kind of hashing things out as a group, doing it in public, and then every once in a while someone joins or watches. We hope someone's getting some value, but we're enjoying it, so that's all that counts.
Things like everyone in the game space with a project that is especially a tech project, we all come across the same issues again and again, and we're trying to meta those. That's why Together Tech exists. But more than that, there feels like there's like an obvious set of technology platforms that the world needs, and yet they fall under the same problems? How do we pay for them, keep them in existence, and yet the user doesn't have to use them so they can become popular? And what would that, all of those projects probably exist within Game B, but what's the best one for each of them? That could help us to, like, your project could help us decide which ones are the best ones and find a way to like buy them outright and combine them so that they can be used by any project at any time for free. Is like, somebody's got to take that step. Somebody with money, because
Wow.
it's someone who might be
when I'm a little less drunk, what I think about what you just said is like that it's exactly right and amazing. And I want to think about it a little bit harder. I want to kind of dive into it a little bit more when I'm a little bit less drunk. So, but I like taking these nuggets of technology that are like kind of like fundamental to the things that need to be happening, and like sort of buying them and polishing them up and like allowing them to be implemented in the projects of many people who are also working towards this, as I see it, the big transition towards the third level of governance, or third level of coordination.
Yeah, and real quick, Adriel, did you have a voting component in Conferati?
Yep.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to, and if y'all are open to watching you two guys have the discussion of, can what Sam's done be implemented, or be a sister, so maybe, Adriel, you don't need to pay for that component,
Right.
either because you're pushing people over there and having a single sign-on situation, or we could talk different technical, logical things. In my experience, it probably won't work out to be combinable, but it'd be an interesting discussion, and maybe it can be, and then maybe also we can do some learning so that future things can be a little bit more plug and play.
Yeah. I'm very open to it. I'm open to, like, I'm looking for a co-founder also, and I'm also very open to the concept of slice pie, whatever it's called. Like, just considering the contributions that people make to this organization as part of the way the equity of the company is distributed. Like, I'd rather have a smaller slice of a bigger pie. Like, I just want this to work, and like, if we can find some way to make this, I don't want to wait a month. Like, I'd rather, like, let's get on a call like this, like tomorrow or Monday or whatever, and like just record it and just do it.
Yeah,
and
like, if you and Adriel want to do that and see how aligned you are, because I do think your projects are very similar, and then I would like to see it if y'all are open to that. So just post it on one of the YouTube channels and share it out.
Certainly, or like, if you have time and you want to join it, I'm like,
I mean, yeah, definitely let me know if y'all end up doing that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'm game for that.
Okay, cool.
Sounds like we're done broadcasting, so I end the broadcast and then we can figure that part out.
Sounds great. All right. So